Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done one of these, and I apologize for that. This chapter is going to help you benefit and understand Chapter 13, the impending crisis, because this war with what we have with Mexico uh, is definitely difficult to understand. So I'm going to spend some time going through Chapter 13 with you, and probably a few different parts of this. Um, and tonight I'm going to spend going up to page 354 with you. Now, just remember, with the way the weather's been this week, uh, if we have snow days in the future, whatever we were doing that day, if anything's due that day, it's due automatically the next day. So if we were going to have a test tomorrow and we have a snow day, your test would be the following day after that. So just be prepared for that. So, Chapter 13, the impending crisis. Tensions between the North and the South still remain. There was a lot of tension going on, and an uneasy peace for sectional conflict between the North and the South held until the 1840s, when Western expansion and slavery basically intersected. And this goes all the way back to the Missouri Compromise. The nationalism that helped unify the country also inspired territorial growth, and that ultimately tore our nation apart. So, westward expansion characterized the settlement since America's very beginnings. We've always were trying to establish ourselves westward. In the 1840s, the movement gained momentum and justification for that. In Manifest Destiny, this vision of a territorial empire embodied the pride of the American democratic experiment in the ideals of social perfection and reflected in the reform movement as well. In 1845, John L. O'Sullivan called the movement to gain a new territory, Manifest Destiny, and with the religious sanctions upon it as well, others pointed to the burden of the American race to fulfill the democratic process. The movement grew in the 1840s dramatically, partly fueled by the new penny press. Others, such as Henry Clay, feared its consequences because its slavery question would be reopened again since the Missouri Compromise. And you can see in this map that's on page 348 in your book just where we expanded, and you can start seeing more and more of the orange pinkish color in the west, like the Missouris and the Arkansas and the Texases of the world. But now you also start to see it in California, like around San Francisco and LA, and there's that little tiny spot right out here in Salt Lake where the Mormons were. So we have all that going on right now. So in Texas, Americans moved into Texas in the 1820s, and it was encouraged by the Mexican government and lured by fertile lands and that were suitable for cotton cultivation. In 1830, there were twice as many Americans as Mexicans in Texas. In Missouri, and Stephen F. Austin established the first legal settlement in 1822, and by 1835 there were now over 30,000 Americans in Texas. Many of the Americans settlers were dissatisfied with the Mexican rule, and the discontent grew after General Santa Anna seized power and attempted to exert more autocratic control over the Mexican provinces. Increasing conflict led to American settlers to declare independence from Mexico in 1836, and the Mexican forces were ruthless in subduing the rebellion and had several military successes, including the Alamo. However, a force led by General Sam Houston captured Santa Anna and defeated the army at the Battle of San Jacinto in 1836, and forced him to accept the independent Texas. New President Houston sought annexation by the United States, but northern politicians, as well as President Andrew Jackson, fearing a lot of sectional calamity with the addition of a more slave territory, opposed the plan of bringing in Texas into the Union. Texas would remain an independent Lone Star Republic until the alliances between Texas and European nations spurred Americans to reopen the question again in 1844. The Oregon Territory was a vast territory including parts of present-day British Columbia up in Texas, up in Canada, not Texas, sorry, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and had been jointly administered by both the United States and Great Britain since the 1818 Transcontinental Treaty. Which don't worry about that part. Until the 1820s, there were little interest in the area except for among fur traders, such as John Jacob Astor. However, the efforts to convert the Indians and counteract the Canada's Catholic influence attracted American evangelicals out to the West. Two of the most famous missionaries were Narcissa and Marcus Whitman, whose efforts were largely unsuccessful. They were killed by Indians in 1847. And by 1840s, numerous settlements had been established, and many urged Americans to take possession of Oregon. Moving on to more westward migration and the Oregon Trail, which you probably played that game where you would die of dysentery, which, by the way, was a great game for the most part. Migration happened in waves and generally in times of economic prosperity. If things were bad, people weren't moving as much or traveling as far. Settlers moved west for a variety of reasons, but many hoped for a new economic advancement in life. Southerners went to Texas, but most Westerners, migrants, came from the Old Northwest. And by the Old Northwest, what do we mean there? We're talking the Michigans, the Indianas, the Ohios of the time. And of the Old Northwest, some had moved several times before permanently settling out in the West that we would consider today. The main westward route was the 2,000-mile Oregon Trail from Independence, Missouri, to either California or the Oregon coast. Over 300,000 traveled this trail in the trails between 1840 and 1860. Contrary to myth and belief, Indians were more helpful than they were harmful on the trail, and despite its hardships, the death rate was not much higher than the United States as an entire whole. Yes, you could die from dysentery, but it was still fairly the same as what was happening out east. Most migrated in families, groups, and attempted to recreate patterns of life that they left on the trail. Women not only walked much of the day, they were also responsible for domestic tasks. When the travel day ended, overland travel was a collective experience with families, and often communities were moving together as a whole. And you can see here on the map on page 353, Independence, Missouri, and the different trails that they could take from one place to another. That'll be it for your reading for up to 354, and I will make another video for you for 354 all the way up to 359 tomorrow. So, you know what, actually, hold on, I'm going to pause for a second. Check that. I'm going to go on to do 354 all the way up to page 359 in this video as well. So, expansion in the war, and this is where you're going to see James K. Polk come into the picture. Pressure from the increasing number of white settlers west of the Mississippi eventually pushed America to war with Mexico. The main issue was the election of 1844 was expansion, and Democrat James K. Polk ran a platform against Whig opponent Henry Clay. By combining annexation of Texas and Oregon under one umbrella, Polk hoped to attract both Northerners and Southerners, and he won election. By the time Polk took office, he had already improved the annexation of Texas, and Polk proposed that Oregon be divided along the 49th parallel. And when the British rejected the offer, America considered a military solution and expressed in the slogan 54-40 or fight. Neither country wanted war, so Britain accepted Polk's terms in 1846. So now we have two new distinct territories, the Oregon Territory and then Texas. Tensions definitely were developing over the boundary with Mexico in the wake of the Texas annexation. Mexico had broke diplomatic ties with Washington after annexation had claimed the Nueces River. I think that's how you say that. as the boundary, and America claimed more territory with the Rio Grande as the boundary. And Polk sent a small army commanded by General Zachary Taylor to defend it. And Polk was also interested in the Mexican provinces of New Mexico and California. Both areas were substantial populations of white settlers and sent secret instructions to seize those territories if war should break out. In this map, you can see, is this not in your, nope. Oh, this map is on page 356 in your book, and it shows you where some of the battles took place in the war with Mexico from 1846 to 1848. Now ready for war, Polk sent an envoy in John Slidell to arrange the purchase of territories. When Mexico rejected the offer, Polk ordered troops across the Nueces River to the Rio Grande, and although it was not clear what happened, the United States claimed that Mexico attacked these troops and Congress declared war in 1846. There was a considerable opposition to the war, which mounted along the cost of casualties as well. American forces under Taylor missed some opportunities, but another force under George Winfield Scott captured Mexico City. The government fell, and the new government expressed a willingness to negotiate with the United States. In New Mexico, Stephen Kearny captured Santa Fe in California, and in 1848, Congress ratified the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, in which Mexico seceded California and Mexico to the United States and accepted the Rio Grande as a border for Texas. The United States agreed to pay Mexico $15 million and accept any financial claims settlers had against the Mexican government. And this vast new territory had great promise, but also had a lot of troubling issues. So, the war that we had with Mexico, we were really hoping to win this war because we did not want to give up lands to Mexico. And over the course of time, we were just going to physically beat them for the territory. So that's it. That's all the way up through the sectional debate, which will get started on page 359. So hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow if there's no snow day. Stop. Hi.